Yep.
Go for it.
Okay. What did they do with the remainder of the truma? They made gold sheets to plate the Holy of Holies. Rabbi Yishmael said the profit of the fruits is used to purchase animals which are offered upon the altar when it is idle, and the remainder of the truma is used for the utensils needed for the temple service. Rabbi Akiva says the remainder of the truma is used to purchase animals which are offered upon the altar when it is idle, and the remainder of the nesachim is used for the utensils needed for the temple service. Kananya Sagan of the Kohan says the remainder of the nesachim is used to purchase animals which are offered upon the altar when it is idle, and the remainder of the truma is used for the utensils needed for the temple service. Neither one nor the other admitted concerning the permissibility of profiting from the fruits. What did they do with the remainder of the incense? They would set aside from the truma an equal amount to the artisan's wages, and would redeem the incense with the artisan's wages. Then they would give the incense to the artisans as their wages and repurchase it from them with the funds for the new truma. If the new Shekalim came in time, they purchased the incense with funds from the new truma, if not from the old. If one consecrated his possessions, and among them were things suitable for communal offerings, these things should be given to the artisans for their wages. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. But as I said to him, this is not the same method described above. Rather, they set aside from these things an amount equal to the artisan's wages, and redeemed them with funds set aside for the artisan's wages. Then they gave them to the artisans as their wages and repurchased them with funds from the new truma.
Okay. Right, Mishna Zayin. Ha-maktish nechasav. So again, somebody makes a contribution to the base of Mikdash, takes some of his property and says, here you are, I want to donate all these things to the Mikdash. And among them were korban grade animals, Zacharim and Akebos, and they're males and females that are worthy for korbanos. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Zacharim yimachru letzorchei olos. So then take the males and sell them on the temple grounds to people who want to bring an olah. And the females sell to people who want to bring shlamim. And the money that that you raise thus should be given back to Bedek Habayis, because according to Rabbi Eliezer, when somebody donates something to the Mikdash, their stam intention is that they're donating to Bedek Habayis. So the korban grade animals among them, but that's the money belongs to the pot for Bedek Habayis. So therefore, you have to sell them to people who need to bring them to the Mizbeach, right. and the money goes to Bedek Habayis. Okay, nice and simple from Rabbi Eliezer. Now, Rabbi Yeshua's opinion is a little more complicated. He says Zacharim Atzman Yikrivu Olos. He says the males themselves should be brought on the Mizbeach as an olah. So you can see straight away that Rabbi Yeshua says that there's something about a donation to the temple, that if something is worthy for an olah, it should be given as an olah. Okay. Now the females can't be brought as an olah. So what you do, you sell them to people who need to bring shlamim, for which a female is kosher, and take the money, spend it on males and bring them as olos. So you see that Rabbi Yeshua says that basically it should all end up as an olah. Okay. But anything else should go for Bedek Habayis. So you see that there's a split in Rabbi Yeshua's opinion. He's saying that the korban grade animals need to end up as olos, but the possessions, the other possessions belong to Bedek Habayis. So you can see the split in opinion. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Rabbi Yeshua says, I have to agree with I prefer the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer to Rabbi Yeshua. Why? Rabbi Eliezer Hishva is midaso, because Rabbi Eliezer is consistent. According to him, everything is going to Bedek Habayis, and so he's got one simple rule. Rabbi Yeshua chalak, but Rabbi Yeshua is inconsistent because he's saying that animals are going towards olos and everything else is going to Bedek Habayis. Amar Rabbi Papias. So Rabbi Papias attempts to reconcile them. Shamati kedivrei shneihem. I've heard both ways, right? Shamaktish beferush kedivrei Rabbi Eliezer, that if somebody is maktish his possessions explicitly, and he says, all of my animals and property should go to Hekdesh, then it's like Rabbi Eliezer, because since he specified that my animals and my property, and didn't say he didn't separate between the animals. We say that minastam he means that Hekdesh, that all of his animals and other possessions should go to Bedek Habayis. Okay. Excuse me. Maktish Stam. But if somebody just says stam, what? In other words, what did he say? Kol nechasai lehekdesh. He says my property over here should all go to Hekdesh. Kedivri Rabbi Yeshua. Then it says Rabbi Papias. Then it goes like Rabbi Yeshua, because the Maktish Stam, his das is that anything that's everything that he's being Maktish should go towards whatever it's fitting for. So the rest of his possessions that can't go on the Mizbeach, okay, so those go to Bedek Habayis. But if I've got animals that can go on the Mizbeach, of course I want them to go on the Mizbeach. Okay, so that's Rabbi Papias's explanation of why Rabbi Yeshua, why you would follow the words of Rabbi Yeshua. However, since Rabbi Akiva has paskened that he prefers Rabbi Eliezer's opinion over here, therefore the halacha would follow Rabbi Eliezer.
How come he's only talking about wine, oil, and fowl, not any kind of meat?
What is what?
Why he's saying that Reb Elazar is saying says that if one consecrated his possessions, among them were things suitable for the altar, such as wines, oils, and fowl, but he's not mentioning any meat. A lamb.
Hang on, which Mishnah are you talking about?
I'm talking about in Chet.
Chet. Okay, so now we haven't got to Chet yet. Okay, we're gonna do Chet now.
Okay.
Okay. Hamaktish nechasim v'hayu bahin devarim re'uyin al gabei hamizbeach. So now, yenos shamanim v'ofos. Okay. So now, if he donates things to the temple, and among them are other things. So previously we've been speaking about behemoths. Now we're talking about libations. Okay, wine, oil, and and birds. Right. Now birds are different. Birds are going to be in a different category from animals. Okay, Rabbi Elazar. Now this is Rabbi Elazar, not Rabbi Eliezer. So let's just be clear about it. Okay. Rabbi Elazar says imachru letzorchei oso hamin v'yavi b'nemehen olos v'shar nechasim yiplu lebedek habayis. So now it looks like Rabbi Elazar is following the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua over here. Why? Because he's saying that the things that are worthy for the Mizbeach should be sold to people who need for the Mizbeach, and then use the money to bring things on the Mizbeach.
Right.
Okay. That which is kind of the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua in the previous Mishnah. Okay, let's just. I want to make sure that he is holding like that in time. Same call. Mashe him nodrim misnadrim. Okay, I feel yeah. That's the Spanish classes. You know that. That's off. Nice. Yeah. Okay. So Rambam writes on this. Why would we take the value of these and bring them as olos, and whereas the value of the behema tamima would go to bedek habayis. So that would be like Rabbi Eliezer. If sheha behema hakadosh lemizbeach im nafal ba mum yesh la pidyon. I says so. Rambam explains that the difference between the animals and the other things that are mentioned in this Mishnah, the libations and the birds, is that if you designate a behema as a korban and it gets a mum, then there's a pidyon for it. You can be podet and it goes out to chulin. Well, not quite to chulin, but it's it at least it has a redemption, whereas birds and libations have no such thing as a pidyon. Okay. Right.
So I think these are all peace offerings, the birds and the oils.
Not necessarily. The libations get brought with any offering. Almost any offering. Okay. And the birds can be brought for people who need to bring a cane. They need to, like a yoledis, a woman who gave birth, The
Right.
Matzora can bring birds, and the Zav can bring birds, right? So there are lots of cases where you'd bring birds for obligatory offerings as well. Let me just see. Okay, so all of these things are not in the parish of Pidyon, and he explains, and the Rabbaz explains there that these Pidyon. So when something has a Pidyon, then the kedusha falls on whatever you put it for, whatever you redeem it for, and you use that money to buy a replacement sacrifice. So therefore, that money, once you've sold the behemoth, that goes to bedek habayis. But these things that have no pidyon, if they go to bedek habayis, lo nasim bahem mitzvah san klal, then there's no mitzvah that's been done with them at all. So therefore they must go onto the mizbeach, because you see that's the difference over here, is that I think he is. I was operating on the assumption that Rabbi Elazar is holding like Rabbi Yeshua in the previous Mishnah, but again that's difficult because Rabbi Elazar is a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva who holds that the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. So what he's saying is that according to the explanations of between the Rambam and the Radbaz, is that the difference is that in the previous case, when you have animals that were donated to the temple, the pidyon, so you sell the animals to somebody who needs them, and you take the money and you put it into bedek habayis, because your stam das of the Baalim was to donate it to bedek habayis. But with the nechasim that he's donated to the mikdash, nesachim. Okay, so the wine and the oil, or the birds, which are all korban grade. Okay, you want to use them for. So since they were donated and they are korban grade, the money that comes out is not. If you do it as a sort of a pidyon, then you won't be. There is no pidyon for them. Right. So if the money goes to bedek habayis, then their mitzvah is not done at all, according to the person who donated them, and presumably had intention that they should go on the mizbeach. So therefore the money must be used for something that goes onto the mizbeach, and that would be voluntary ola. I guess that's our best.
That's it, right. Okay. It also says that the Rav's version of the Mishnah lists flour also.
Yes.
You don't have flour.
Oh yes, there's no. There's no flour in this one. So whose version has soles in it?
It says Rav's version of the Mishnah, as well as that of the Rambam, the Rosh Hashanah, and others.
Also includes soles, right? That makes
Right.
sense. It makes sense that it should be there as well, because it's all under the same category.
Right.
Okay. All right, Mishnah Tes. Achas l'shloshim yom misharin es halishka. So every 30 days, they do a reassessment of the value of the goods in the lishka. Now, this is where we learn our famous situation that the mikdash always has the advantage over the merchants who are selling them things. Okay. So let's say you've got a flour merchant, and he says that he's going to he's set the price that he's going to sell to the mikdash at four se'ah for a seller.
Okay.
So he said 4 se'ah for a seller. V'amdu mishalosh, and now the price of the flour has gone up to, so he has to supply 3 se'ah for a seller. Okay. Yisapek ma'arba. Sorry, he has to continue supplying to the mikdash at the lower price. Okay. Now, what if it's the reverse situation? Mishalosh, if it started out that the price that they agreed was 3 se'ah to a seller, v'amdu me'arba, and the price dropped. Yisapek me'arba. Sorry, he has to provide at the lower price as well. Sheyad hekdesh ala elyona, because the temple has an inbuilt advantage in all of these transactions, that you always have to provide that you always have to provide the goods at the cheaper price. So if there are any fluctuations in price, the merchant always loses out. Okay, there's a bit of lumdus about it in terms of the fact that hekdesh is koneh b'mamon, whereas the merchant is only koneh b'mashicha or makneh b'mashicha. So which gives the advantage, the technical advantage to the mikdash. But basically, it's a pretty lucrative contract to land if you're going to be the official flour supplier or an official flour supplier to the mikdash. That's a nice contract to land, but but it is a double-edged sword, and you can easily end up taking a loss from it.
Right, yeah, because that's what it says. It says whoever undertook to supply fine flour at 4, and the price went to 3. He must supply it at 4. Right. So he's making money. But if he undertook to supply at 3 and the price went to 4, he must supply at 4. From the
right. So it's the reverse. It's not like 4 shekels a kilogram or 3 shekels a kilogram. It's 3 kilograms a shekel or 4 kilograms a shekel.
Right.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So if the number goes up, the price is going down. Okay. Right. And if the flour got wormy, then the merchant takes the loss, even if it's in temple property. So he sold them the flour, but before they could use it, it turned wormy. The temple says, sorry, your loss, not ours. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if the wine went sour, also here the merchant takes the loss. And he doesn't get paid until the mizbeach has consumed the goods. Mm-hmm. So once they've taken his flour and used it on his mizbeach, then the payment becomes due. Okay. So that's the risk of being a merchant selling stuff to the mikdash, is that you take all the risk and the mikdash takes none.
Right. You can't argue with the mikdash.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The Sacham.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. One may not conclude the feast after eating the Pesach with dessert. If some fell asleep, they may eat. If all, they may not eat. Rabbi Yossi says if they doze, they may eat. If they fell into a deep sleep, they may not eat. The Pesach offering contaminates one's hands after midnight. Pickle and leftover sacrificial meat contaminate the hands. If he recited the blessing for the Pesach offering, he exempts the blessing of the Chagiga offering. But if he recited that of the Chagiga offering, he does not exempt that of the Pesach offering. These are the words of Rishmael. And Rabbi Akiva says this one does not exempt that one, nor does that one exempt this one.
Okay, one more Mishnah from the beginning of Shekalim.
Where's my Shekalim? I didn't put Shekalim away. Wait a second. Okay. Olive.
Mm-hmm.
On the first of Adar, they proclaim about the payment of the Shekalim and about Kalayim. If the 15th of Adar they read the Megillah in the walled cities, they commence to repair the roads and town squares and the accumulation of water. They attend to all the public needs, and they mark the graves, and they also go out and inspect the fields for Kalayim.
Yeah.
Okay. So tomorrow, when we start, we're going to start with Shekalim? Or
yes, Shekalim.
Okay. And Pesach we put away.
We're going to be bringing it out again tomorrow because we're going to finish Erevin and go back to Pesachim.
All right, so we go to Aleph tomorrow. I want to make sure I have this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. What do I do now? I turned.
So we're now in Erevin Yud
right.
Gimel.
Right. Yeah, I turned everything around. Okay, Yud Gimel. We may replace the dressing in the temple, but not in the provinces. If for the first time it is prohibited here and there. We may tie a string in the temple, but not in the provinces. If for the first time it is prohibited here and there. We may cut off a wart in the temple, but not in the provinces. If with an instrument it is prohibited here and there. A Kohen who injured his finger may wrap reed grass over it in the temple, but not in the provinces. If to force out blood, it is prohibited here and there. We may spread salt on the ramps so that they should not slip. And we may draw water from the exile's well and from the great well with a windlass on the Sabbath and from the flowing well on Yom Tov. If a sheretz was found in the temple, a Kohen may remove it with his sash so as not to prolong the presence of the tomb of contamination. These are the words of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. And Rabbi Yehuda says, with wooden tongs so as not to increase the contamination. From where do we remove it? From the temple, the antechamber, and between the antechamber and the altar. These are the words of Reb Shimon ben Nanas. Rabbi Akiva says the area for which one incurs kares for an intentional transgression, and a sin offering for an unintentional transgression. From there, we must remove it. For all other areas, we cover it with a pot. Reb Shimon says, wherever the sages have granted a dispensation, they have given you what is yours, for they have not permitted except that which is a rabbinical decree.
Right? Do I
put Erevin away or keep it out?
Yeah, you can put it away.
All right. I get confused with the whole system. If this is the second time around, I'm still confused with the system. Okay.
Okay, Bikurim.
Okay. Aleph Bey. Right. For what reason does he not bring? Because it is written, the first of the first fruits of your land, only if their growth is from your land. Tenants, leases, a sikranon.
Sikranon is, in other words, is a bandit of some sort, yeah.
Right. And when a robber do not bring for the same reason, since it is written, the first of the first fruits are your land. One does not be Bikurim from other than the 7 species, nor from the dates of the hills, nor from the fruits of the valleys, nor from olives, which are not of the choices. One does not bring Bikurim before the Shavuot festival, and the men of Mount Sivoim brought their Bikurim before the Shavuot festival, and they did not accept these from them, because of what is written, and the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in your field. Were the men of Mount Sivoim the same as the Kuthians, that they didn't, follow all the rules, or?
Sorry, wait. The Anshe Har Savoim, no, they're not like Kusim. They were just like a little bit eager. They were over eager to bring this stuff early, and they were Chashuv people, so they couldn't look the other way and say, oh well, we'll just let it hang out for a little while.
Okay. All right.
Because they didn't want people to learn from their example.
All right. Dalet. These bring but do not recite. The proselyte brings but does not recite, because he cannot say, which the Lord swore to our fathers to give us. But if his mother was an Israelite, he brings and recites. When he prays privately, he says, the God of our fathers of Israel. When he's in the synagogue, he says, the God of your fathers. But if his mother was an Israelite, he says, the God of our fathers. Okay. On to Zavim. Base. If the Zav struck a blow on a crossbeam or a frame or a gutter board or a plank, even though it is merely tied down with ropes, on an oven, on the receptacle of the flour mill, on the base of a millstone, on the base of a hand-powered mill, or on the measure of an olive grinder. And Rabbi Yossi says, additionally, a Zav who strikes on the beam of the bathhouse attendant, on the beam of the bathhouse attendant, in all of these cases, the loaf that falls remains tahor.
Because it's kind of caused by a vibration. It's not a direct.
That's it, right.
Mm-hmm.
If a Zav struck a blow on the door of a doorbolt, or on a lock, or on an oar, or on a mill receptacle, or on a weak tree, or on a weak branch that grows from a strong tree, or on an Egyptian ladder that is not anchored with a nail, on a ramp, on a beam, or a door that is not secured with plaster. In all these cases, the loaves that fall are tameh.
Right, because now this is a direct movement where because it's weak, it doesn't have its own it doesn't have its own strength, and it's not just a vibration. Effectively, the zav is basically is directly moving it, and therefore it becomes tameh.
Okay. If the zav struck a blow on a carriage, a chest, or a closet, the loaves that fall are tameh. However, Reb Nechemya and Reb Shimon rule these tahor. In the case of a zav who is lying upon 5 benches or upon 5 money belts, if he lies along their length, they are tameh. However, if he lies across their widths, they are all tahor. If he slept,
Why is that? Why is that? Because there's no one chair that is holding the majority of his weight. He's distributed his
Right.
weight across multiple chairs, so therefore they all remain tower.
If he slept and there is doubt that he may have turned around on them, they are all tummy. If the Zav was lying upon 6 chairs, with his 2 arms resting upon 2 of them, his 2 legs resting upon 2 of them, his head upon 1, and his body upon 1, only this one that is beneath his body is tummy. If the Zav was standing on 2 chairs, Reb Shimon says they are distant one from the other, and they are tahor.
If they are distant from one from the other, because then he's shifting his weight, and at any given point he's probably shifted the majority of his weight between both of them. So each of them has at some point carried his full weight, and therefore each one is tameh. Tomorrow, Gimel Hay.
Concerning the Tamura of the firstborn animal and the animal tithe, their offspring and the offspring of their offspring ad infinitum. All these are like the original firstborn and tithe offerings, but they are eaten by the owners when they become blemished. What is the difference between a firstborn or a tithe animal and all the other offerings? That all offerings may be sold in the market and slaughtered as in the market, and may be weighed against the leader weight, with the exception of the firstborn and tithe animals, and all offerings are subject to redemption, and the Tamuras likewise are subject to redemption. With the exception of the firstborn and the tithe animals, all sacrificial offerings are brought from outside the land of Israel, with the exception of a Bechor or a Meiser animal. However, if Bechor or Meiser animals were brought, and if they are unblemished, they are offered.
Unblemished, yeah.
I'm sorry. If they are unblemished, they are offered. And if they are blemished, they are eaten in their blemished state by the owners. Reb Shimon says, what is the reason for this difference? It is that Bechor and Meiser animals have a remedy in their present place. But in the case of all of the offerings, even if they develop a blemish, they remain in their consecrated state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The offspring of a katos, the Tamora of a katos, and the katos whose owners have died are left to die. A katos whose year has passed, and one that was lost and then found blemished. If the owners then atone for their sin, the original katos is left to die. It doesn't make a Tamora, and one may not derive benefit from it, but nor is it one liable for Me'ilah. But if the owners did not yet atone for their sin, the original katos should be left to graze until it develops a blemish, and it should be sold, and he should then bring another offering with its proceeds. It makes a tamara, and one is liable for Me'ilah. Okay. One more?
Yeah.
If one designates an animal as a katos and it was lost, and then offered another one in its place, and after the first one was found, it must be left to die. If one designates money for his katos and it was lost, and he offered a katos in its place, and after the money was found, the coins go to the Dead Sea. So I always found that strange why I went to the Dead Sea.
Well, because you can't get it back. Yeah,
Right.
that's how you destroy something and destroy money and make sure that it never comes back.
I try not to do that. So, all right. Okay, Kedushin. If someone authorized his agent to give his daughter in Kedushin, and he went and gave her in Kedushin, if his was
Misha, he gave rishus to shliach to make her right, to give his he authorized his agent to receive kiddushin for his daughter, and then the father himself went and received the kiddushin from somebody else. So they're two different guys that these two people are marrying her off to.
Okay, I got it. If his was the first, his kiddushin is valid, and if that of an agent was first, his kiddushin is valid. If it is not known, they both give a get. If they desire, one may give a get, and the other one may marry her. That's a strange way to say it. It's strange because they were talking about one agent here and one father.
There's one agent and one father. So he told the agent to do kiddushin for his daughter. So
right.
if you don't know who received the kiddushin first, then you've got the suffix which man she's married to.
No, but she can't marry the father.
Not the father. The father did a kiddushin with somebody else. The two chasanim. So the two prospective chasanim. One did the kiddushin with the father. One did the kiddushin with the shaliach, and we don't know who did it first. So now the two prospective chasanim have to duke it out as to who wants to marry her. If they come to an agreement, then one can say, okay, I'll give her a divorce, and then you can marry her. Or if they can't come to an agreement, then both of them have to give her a get.
Okay, all right. I was getting confused. I didn't say anything about another person, another woman here. So unless I missed it. Okay. Similarly, if a woman authorized an agent to accept a condition, she went and accepted her own condition. If hers was first, her condition is valid. If her agent's was first, his condition is valid. If it is not known, they both give her a get. If they desire, one may marry, one may give her a get, and the other marry her. Someone who went overseas with his wife and then came with his wife and his children and said that this is the woman who went overseas with him and these are her children, need not bring proof concerning the woman nor concerning the children. If he said she died and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the children, but he need not bring proof concerning the woman. If one says, I married a woman overseas, this is she, and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the woman, but he need not bring proof concerning the children. If he says she died and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the woman and her children.
Right, in other words, that's it. We're finished over there. But you see so if we know him and his wife and they're already married, then we don't need any further proof about him. And the children who are coming and clinging around her legs, we can presume that they are her children, and that's fine. But but as soon as we remove some of the proofs, like he comes up with a strange woman, then and here are her children. So he's got to prove that this woman is Jewish, that she's properly miyuchas, okay, and then we don't have to ask any more about the children because they're hanging around her legs. But if he just comes back with children and says, look, I married a woman overseas and I had children with her and she died and now here are the children, we got to think, okay, first of all, who's the woman that you claim to have married? Let's get a proof about that. And how are you going to prove that these are your children as well? You could be just picked up some random kids and brought them home. So he's got to bring a proof that these are actually her children, and in order to establish the yichus. That's what this parak in Kiddushin is talking about: is establishing yichus of people. Okay.
All right. Good. All right.
Okay. After we're going to finish Kiddushin as well tomorrow. So then we move on to Bava Kama.
Okay, I'll take it out. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.